Key players in the media industry are backing a campaign to defend media freedom. President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Roland Afomoni, Chief Executive of the Ghana Chamber of Telecoms, and the Media Foundation for West Africa's Suleiman Abrahima were part of a panel that launched a series of conversations to ensure Ghana has a freer, safer media space. They have since been highlighting the dangers society opens itself up to when people don't champion media freedoms.
An exercise in perfect timing and a campaign worth supporting by all journalists in this country, because an attack against one journalist is an attack against all journalists. An attack against all journalists is an attack against our democracy. An attack against our democracy is an attack against the very soul and spirit of this nation. So as we speak, the soul and spirit of this nation are bleeding profusely. And we need to take practical steps to stanch the blood flow. This means coming together to punish the perpetrators of attacks against journalists. And for journalists not to lend themselves to easy attack, not to fall easy prey to attacks.
Okay. Right.
They should be ethically conscious and responsible.
One of the things that we want to salvage the soul of this particular country that we have. Because if you look at the people who beat up, yes, we have the state actors, but the other people who are non-state actors as well. The major challenge we have is that when these things happen, that there's no punishment for it. So we need to ensure that the rules are implemented, that we need to ensure that we're defending. Because you see, no matter what happens, finally when your back is against the wall, the organization that you would run to is the media. So we all need to realize it, that when we don't defend the media's rights, we're just cutting our tongues and thinking that we have some meat to chew, but it's ourselves. Yeah. And we all need to work together in concert to ensure that this actually happens.
Must support, all Ghanaians must applaud. And at the end of the day, it is about defending our democracy, defending the lives of our people who don't have voices. The media constitute the voice for the voiceless. And I think that on this occasion, I have the singular honor and privilege to declare this most important campaign that defend media freedom duly launched, and I hope that we would all be on board to make it a success.
Now, the hashtag for these conversations is Demand Media Freedom. And later on the show, there will be more discussions on whether or not the media has fully utilized the freedom it has now. Stay with us for that conversation. To the courts next, where outgoing Inspector General of Police David Asante Apietu and the Director General of Police CID, COP Mami Tiwa Adudankwa, forgive me, have for the third time failed to show up at an Accra High Court where they've been cited for contempt. Now, at the two previous sittings, the judge, Justice Jennifer Dodu, had indicated she will only deliver her ruling if the two officers were present. The court was on Monday left with no choice but to adjourn the case once again, as the two failed to show up. There's more in this report.
The two top police officers have already missed two court proceedings. Justice Jennifer Dodu, who was displeased with the non-appearance of the top officials, said she would have issued a warrant for their arrest if they were ordinary citizens. She further warned her decision will only be read once the two officers are before her in court. The court had previously been informed they were out of the country, leaving the judge to settle on July 22 to deliver the ruling. Lawyers for Gregory Afoko say the police simply refused to obey the court's decision to grant bail. As at 3 p.m. on Monday, when the case was called to be heard in chambers, the IGP and the CID Director General were both not present. JoyNews sources say the case has been adjourned to October 10. Lawyers in the case have also been asked to file written addresses to the court.
Now let's take you to the Ashanti region. And teachers and administrators of private basic schools will be trained on the new education curriculum ahead of its introduction in September. Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Yao Osei Duchum, says This ultimately will strengthen public-private partnership for good quality education delivery. He notes, lots of emerging techniques and values are available for adoption by teachers, hence the need to build capacity. Nana Sensu Mensah has more.
In April 2019, the Ghana Education Service launched a new curriculum for primary schools. It seeks to address deficiencies in the education system and prepare Ghanaian children to compete globally. Kindergarten courses have been revised from 7 to 4 learning areas, while the number of subjects for the rest of the upper classes is unchanged. Dr. Oseduchum says the training will cover private schools nationwide.
As we speak with you, we are preparing to help train private school administrators and other supporting staff and coaches so that they can implement the new curriculum. So there are various ways that the government can support them. But I think the most important thing is that we also need to learn from them, look at their best practices and use that to change the public education system. The quality of the instructional program, the cleanliness of the environment, sometimes you cannot gloss over. When you see the auditorium and the classrooms and the various ways that the school has been put together, it challenges us to do more in the public space. So we're here to learn from them, learn from the private sector, as we also support them through training and other opportunities that we can extend to them.
Some potential beneficiaries of the program expressed concerns about the existing challenges. Reverend Mrs. Evelyn Eduamankwa is proprietor of Gloryville Basic School in Kumasi.
Yeah. Without the government support, it has really affected private school. In our case, for instance, we want the government to appreciate private school proprietors because we are doing very well to support the nation. We have been training most of the students or the children in the nation.
Now, the former director of the Institute of Educational Planning and Administration at the University of Cape Coast, Professor George Oduro, is worried about the country's inability to utilize the services of educational planners that are trained in the country. He reveals many of the skilled human resources trained by the Institute are not being used to the country's benefit and wants government to use these educational planners in its quest to improve the educational sector.
The colloquium, organized by the Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, assembled brains from the educational sector to brainstorm on how to position the country's educational system using educational planning and administration. As the nature of the provision of education across the globe keeps evolving, the former director of the IEPA, George Kwekutuku, believes the country can do more to utilize the resources in educational planning and administration. The former Pro-Vice Chancellor of UCC is upbeat if government utilized educational planners and administrators that are trained by the IEPA. The quest for government to improve access and quality in the country's schools would receive a boost.
Since its inception in 2001-2002 academic year to date, IEPA has been able to train only 77 educational planners for Ghana. Only 77. And it is good that someone said, But you see, the dilemma, even these 77 educational planners, where are they? In our districts, in our municipalities, in our metropolitan directorate, where are they? That's a very big question. So utilization of our products, educational planners who should be servicing the Ghana Education Service, who should be servicing the Ministry of Education, is not seen.
For the director of the IEPA, Brother Michael Amachi, the evolving nature of education places a huge demand on educational planners, managers and leaders, and a lot of effort needs to be done to ensure its effectiveness.
Our education system continues to evolve and is expected to serve a more technologically oriented society in which students are expected to have essential knowledge and skills to function in a knowledge society. The evolving nature of the education system places new demands on educational leaders, managers, and more importantly, on planners to plan towards the provision of education that is available and affordable, fit for purpose, and for sustainable development.
The panel of educational experts discussed how educational planners and administrators could be used to complement government efforts in the educational sector. Richard Kwejunyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
And to end the bulletin, a senior lecturer at the Department of Crop Sciences at the University of Ghana, Dr. Nalamle Emisa, is asking government to invest in more research into indigenous Ghanaian food crops to improve food security. Dr. Emisa made the call during a workshop to disseminate research findings on a new potato variety to agricultural extension officers based in the Upper East region. Correspondent Albert Sorry brings us more.
The workshop, held at the Manga station of the Savannah Agriculture Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, was aimed at disseminating findings of a research into a new variety of potato developed by the Council about 2 years ago. Named Frafra potato, the variety is the first of its kind in Africa, according to the Savannah Agriculture Research Institute. The researchers also developed a stem cutting propagation method, which is a climate-smart adaptation strategy instead of the traditional way of planting using tubers. Dr. Francis Kusi is senior research scientist at the Savannah Agriculture Research Institute.
So we take one plant like this. This one plant. It develops this main stem, and each of them develop this other sub stems. And if you give it some time, these ones will further shoot to also start branching. So from just one stem like this, you can get as many. All these are possible planting materials. Right, and I said you can target 2 nodes. This one, these 2. You can even cut it here. Right? And you have 2 planting materials from just this branch.
A senior lecturer at the Department of Crop Sciences at the University of Ghana, Legon, Dr. Nalamle Emisa, said indigenous food crops have a potential to help address the problem of food insecurity, and Ghanaian farmers need to be encouraged to cultivate more of these crops. She advocates for more research into indigenous crops in order to add value to their production.
With that research that we did, what we did was to look at indigenous crop species in general. Basically, our question in that survey was, why is it that we no longer have those crop species? And then basically asking farmers, what is it that has caused the lack of those crop species within our environment? So we found that, about 40 plus, 50 plus were species that were previously being cultivated but are no longer being cultivated. And it was as a result of poor soil conditions. Deforestation was one of the major things that came up. Climate change and climatic conditions was another issue that was raised, by quite a number of them. But I think what was important was saying that it not being economically important or viable. In that, if farmers go into the production of some of these local species of ours that, have great potential, etc., who is going to be buying them? And definitely so that set us thinking that research needs to drive, from value addition. We need to actually look at value addition to be able to drive the production of some of these the indigenous crop species.
The dissemination workshop was funded by the Africa Climate Change Adaptation Initiative of the University of Ghana, Legon. 40 agric extension officers were trained on how to cultivate the new Frafra potato. They are expected to in turn train farmers in their various districts for large-scale production. Some of them spoke to Joy News.
I've been doing sweet potato for my farmers and all that, but today I've been enhancing my knowledge, and especially the release of 2017. The 5 varieties that have been released, they will help me to improve on the farmers' cultivation of this frafra potato.
Now that this training has come, we need that government to push, especially funds, for us to carry demonstration across the communities, across each AEA operational area, so that farmers can pick it. Because when we don't do the demonstration and we go and talk verbally to a farmer, it's difficult for the farmer to believe. So there's a push on demonstration so that we carry demonstration on every operational area.
From Manga in the Bindore district of the Upper East region, Albert Sori reporting for Joy News.
And that's where we bring a close to the bulletin, but you need to stay where you are because the newspaper review is coming up, and then of course we're digging deep to find out what we need to do in order to protect media freedom. Stay tuned, it's all coming up.